Hello and welcome to BBDD, or Bede Batters Dungeons Dragons. This is my place to talk about this fantastic game of Dungeons & Dragons, which I've been really into, really obsessing over for about 2 years now. I got into it when a friend of mine invited me into a game, and then after that I just kind of threw myself into learning how to run games myself. I've played a lot more games, and I've been absorbing information off YouTube and out of books and things about how to play it, how to get better at it. I've refined my skills beyond that kind of first initial excitement and kind of just trying everything all at once. And I think having watched a lot of videos and a lot of information and learnt more and more about how different people play and run Dungeons & Dragons, I started to realise that it's basically a framework for you to tell the story however you want to tell it, and how you're going to tell it is going to be very different from how anybody else tells it. People like Matt Cogle, for example, who's an amazing guy to follow. You should definitely check out his Running the Game series of videos. Amazing bits of information that will really help improve your game. But I don't think I would be able to run a game like he runs it. I would play in a different way. And so taking information from other sources and kind of applying it through the way that you run your game, the way you like to play your characters, is really a useful technique to do and will help improve your game, improve the fun you have with Dungeons & Dragons. So I thought, since I'm obsessing about it anyway, and anybody I can corner I usually tell about Dungeons & Dragons and what I've discovered about it and what I think is really cool, I thought I'd make a few videos to do exactly that, but on a bigger stage basically. So this is what this channel is about. The rest of this video is just going to be basically me introducing how I came to Dungeons & Dragons, how I learned how to run games, how I learned to play, and that's just to give you an idea of where I'm coming from as a player and as a GM, how I like to do things, whether I'm more leaning towards role-playing or whether it's more mechanics, and it'll just kind of introduce you to my backstory, and then other videos will get into kind of more actual rules and ideas that I've come up with. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy me for the rest of these videos. So, just about 2 years ago, a friend of mine who played D&D before with his flatmates decided he wanted to run his own game, and he invited me and my girlfriend in to play with him, along with I think one other player at the start. And it was a game that he kind of developed himself. It was kind of loosely based on 5th edition, but it wasn't using the 5th edition rules. It was very, very simplified, and it was basically just a framework for him to kind of dig into a very dramatic story. He's an actor, and he really enjoyed the role-playing aspect of Dungeons & Dragons, so he developed this really quite simplified setup, which basically just used the same idea with the rolling of the dice for the combat and stuff, but was much more focused on role-playing. And that, because I'd also done some amateur drama, really worked for me. And both me and my girlfriend really enjoyed each of the sessions. We really got stuck into it, really got into the narrative and the whole story of everything. And then I think it was the Christmas of that year that we'd started, me and my girlfriend went off to her home, which is in the north of Sweden, to spend Christmas with her family. And whilst we were there, we were talking to her sister about our Dungeons & Dragons experience and how fun the game was. And so her sister said, well, we should kind of try our own game, see what it's like. It sounds really good fun. She would like to have a go of it. The only problem is none of us knew how to play the game. Certainly none of us knew how to be a dungeon master. We actually hadn't played proper D&D, so we didn't know the rules. But we thought, yeah, well, maybe give it a go. And my girlfriend found a copy of the Player's Handbook for 5th edition in a local game store, in English, thankfully. And so I kind of sat down and thought, okay, I'll see if I can learn the rules. I'll take on the role as the game master, because I'm not sure why it was decided that I would do it, but I wanted to give it a shot. And both my girlfriend and her sister just kind of wanted to play. So we kind of sat down and did it, and it took a while. It took a long while. I kind of felt like I had a grip on some of the rules, and then I would get to a kind of stopping point when particularly with combat, I'd come to the idea of combat and think, okay, well I kind of get the idea that you kind of come up with the story in real time normally, but then in combat I just didn't know how to work. So I was doing Google searches like, how do you run D&D combat, and finding not very many specific videos about that, but other bits that kind of more confused me. So we tried making characters, and that took at least 2 days solidly just trying to figure out the rules for making characters. And I'm pretty sure coming back to it later, coming back to the characters after I learned more, I realised, you know, mistakes and things in there, but we did pretty good. I mean, the good thing was that because we were in the north of Sweden in the middle of winter, there was basically only 1 hour of daylight a day, and it was closing on -20, so there wasn't a lot of reason to go outside, so we just kind of stuck at it. And eventually I found a first level module to play, which was The Dreaming Heralds, which was written by Michael Button, and it's an excellent, very simple, very basic first level adventure. It's just basically a group of adventurers who've come together for whatever reason, find a villager on the side of the road, and it leads on to an adventure. It was just perfectly balanced and nicely set up with clear enough information but not too much information that I felt like I could run it. Of course, being a new DM, I didn't know how to balance a game. I didn't know how to change challenge rating or any of that. And so when the adventure said this is designed for 4 first level characters, and I knew that I only had 2 players, I thought, okay, I guess I'll play the other 2 characters. So I made 2 characters of my own. My girlfriend made 1 character and her sister made a character, and we all kind of started. Now I've seen many videos that say, you know, if you're a DM, do not play a character in your own game, and I'm starting to see the wisdom in that. But at the time, when we were all just kind of learning together, it actually worked really well for me and allowed me to kind of control the adventure in a way, and also learn both playing and DMing at the same time, because I was more comfortable being a player and having that as a kind of an escape that I could then also kind of put aside the DMing and just be a character for a little while and then get back to it. That was kind of good fun, and it amazingly worked. And so by the time we'd ended the first module, which took a while, took several sessions, it wasn't a long module by any means, I then kind of made up on the fly a little bit of a linking section, and then just threw in a second module, which was the Mad Manor of Astabar by David Dudka, which came along with a little village as well. The village of Half Hollow is the one in the story, so I just kind of popped that down the road from where I'd placed the original adventure, which was somewhere in Faerun, in the Forgotten Realms campaign setting. And I'd started at that point to really kind of get to grips with what I was supposed to do. I knew how combat was more working. I could start playing with it a bit more. I realised that I was starting to get the first inkling that D&D is more of a framework for you then to tell a story around, and it really starts to build itself kind of organically from the players and from the DM. And so by the time we'd finished the Mad Manor of Astabar, I was more than ready to kind of leap off into my own whole adventure, and I'd started making hand-drawn maps, and I'd made a whole new, like a big bad for the party to adventure towards and to kind of defeat, and I'd linked it to some of the random events that I'd thrown in previously, and I was kind of really getting into this now. And we just kind of started on that when, unfortunately, Christmas was over, and me and my girlfriend had to go back to the UK. So that was kind of the end of that game for a while. We certainly were going to continue it, and have done continuing it afterwards. But that kind of ended that first really cool introduction to the proper rules of D&D. And then obviously going back to UK, we got back into our other game, and we saw the differences between the pared down version and what we could then do. And I really just threw myself into learning as much as I could about this and playing as much. And so since then, I've been in multiple different games. I've been in lots of 5th edition games. I've been in some 4th edition games, which initially I didn't really like, but I got really into. I haven't yet tried Pathfinder, but I'm getting close to hopefully getting invited into a game for that. I've tried inventing some of my own kind of altered systems of 5th edition as well. And I've gathered a massive library of just YouTube videos, PDFs, books and information about Dungeons and Dragons. And as I say, for the last 2 years it has become a pretty big obsession of mine, and I think for the first year after I really got into it, that was just all I did. I mean, it was just adventures, stories, character rules, games, ideas for games, and just everything was going through my mind 24/7. I kind of cooled down a bit now, and I'm starting to get a bit more refined in my playstyle, a bit more interested in the makeup of the game itself, and I think this is kind of why I've gotten to this point of wanting to kind of discuss over the course of these videos various techniques, my ideas, my musings, suggestions, the mistakes I've made, the mistakes I'm still making, and advice as to how to avoid them, or the mistakes that perhaps you maybe don't want to avoid. As I say, this is entirely going to be my own version of playing D&D, as pretty much everyone's version is going to be. Whether you're a DM or a player, you're going to play it in the way that you enjoy it and the way that your party enjoys it. The way you play will change depending on different parties as well, particularly if you're a player going into different groups. You'll have to adapt the way you play. I personally am very much a role player. I like to do voices, I like to really get into the psychology of my characters, but that doesn't always apply to certain groups that maybe don't have such a weight on that, and you'll find you're just kind of bogging down the process by spending too much time acting out every little bit when you could have just said, well, yeah, I do this. As with every creator at the moment on YouTube discussing D&D in various ways, shapes and forms, they all add their own particular style, and there's many that I admire, there's many that I think are really great content creators and really great DMs, but I personally wouldn't play in their style. That doesn't mean I don't follow their information. Like Matt Colville, for example, is one of my favourite guys to follow. He has some amazing advice for Dungeons and Dragons, but his games, I could never actually run a game the way he runs it, but I can certainly use his techniques to help improve my game, to help understand how this game works. And so that's the kind of purpose of these videos, however many I make, whatever topics, I'm not really sure yet, but I'm just going to make hopefully fairly short videos discussing some interesting bit or some discovery about Dungeons and Dragons that I've had, and go through it and kind of explain how I did it. I'll maybe throw in some basics as well, things that would have helped me when I was starting out, like how combat runs, which, much like for myself now I've got to grips with it so much, I don't really return to those very basic videos, but the fact they exist to begin with is pretty damn useful. So, I hope to see you in the next video, and thank you for watching. Good luck, and be well.